Hey everyone, this is Nona again from The Alliance Lover. I have another Venus style video for you today, something that I'm quite excited about. It's Venus in Scorpio. I could have gone on and on and on and done dozens upon dozens of examples. I find this placement and the women with this placement so fascinating because they just have this certain smolder to their look. So if you just look at this little sampling of Venus and Scorpio women, look at the expression on their face and the kind of like smolder that they have. It's a very, very prominent theme. It's one of the more stronger influences in my opinion, so it's really fascinating to me. So before we begin, just a little brief review of the sign Scorpio. It's ruled traditionally by Mars along with Aries. It is a water sign and it is fixed. A lot of people like to think of Scorpio as the fire sign of the water element because there's just something very fiery and passionate and very explosive about these natives, people with this placement, or some influences that can feel like Scorpio. And the best way that I can kind of describe their style is dragon ladies. They look like they're kind of hunt you down or eat you, and you're gonna enjoy it. So they're very good at the dark, almost like black hole smolder, and they look great in clothes that look strappy, lots of black, lots of darkness, lots of heavy materials like leathers, really heavy suedes, even velvets sometimes. But the most important point is that it almost looks like an armor. So these women really like to dress in a way that's both revealing but also mysterious, and they have to be able to control what they want to reveal. So that's a theme to look for as we look at these examples. So our first example is Demi Moore. Look at her from the 80s, so cute. Again, look at the smolder in her eyes. This is from her, I think, G.I. Jane year, and she looks great with absolutely no hair. She can just really pull it off because her eyes are just so incredibly intense. And if you look at these earrings, they're kind of like blades or daggers. They're sharp, they're long, they look like little claws, again with the whole armor theme. And the black and the reds are also very prominent in these women's styles, not the bright, dark, and bright red of Leos with the really flashy reds and blacks, or the more faded blacks and reds of Aries. These are very dark, absorbent reds and blacks, so they're not going to be super bright. They're more magnetic looking. They absorb the light almost. So here are just a few examples of Demi in some dark clothing. I would say these are more of her fancier looks, but I just wanted to really give you some very high contrast examples. Here we have, not a super revealing jumpsuit, but it's still very sexy on her. And here, again, not the most revealing dress, but the way that she wears it makes it very suggestive, as opposed to these ones where this is just a lot more revealing. It's a lot more explicit with the push-up bra and all of this lace framing the chest region. But that doesn't really symbolize control over what you're revealing because it's just out there for everyone to see, and it's not as mysterious as these kinds of garments. And it's just so floral and lacy and dainty and purple. It looks a little outdated on her. And here, it's a casual outfit, but it's just so bright, so animated, a little too perky, in my opinion. Next up, we have Carla Bruni. She has Venus in Scorpio. I think she's a Capricorn. She has a lot of Capricorn influences. So she really loves black more than most people. And she looks really good in it. She looks good in the structured clothing. And even though she's so soft as a musician, she looks better in more grungy, maybe not grungy, but more rock and roll influenced outfits. Not as soft as you would expect when you listen to her actual music, which is just so delicate and airy. She looks great in leather, all black, clingy, but still quite mysterious. Again, not too explicit. And here, the straps. Again, this is not the most revealing outfit in my opinion, but the way that they wear it, especially with the details like the belts and the cutouts, it makes it a lot more intriguing. Here we see her in the dark velvet. Looks great. Again, more leather, more black. Here, more leather and black. And here, some kind of meshy, strappy, dark burgundy kind of clothing. Yes, this one's a little bit more revealing, but I feel like it would look more aquatic and almost fairy tale like on other models, but she makes it look a bit more darker, a bit more carnal. And here, just the opposite. These are very proper, more preppy kinds of outfits. And obviously you still see that she's pretty, but it just looks so stuffy and rigid on her. I don't think it matches at all. Next up, we have Avril Lavigne, and I think if you remember, she was all decked out in skater gear in the early parts of her career, and it was a big controversy because that was totally made up, and she was actually like the prom queen or whatever. I don't know too much about it, but I did see her in person backstage at an awards show, and she's tiny. She's like 4'11". She's so small. Anyways, even though it might be artificial, she looks great in the darker clothing. It really just makes her look more of a personality, and it looks like she looks more anchored in the dark colors and the more sexy but still kind of conservative dress, as opposed to when she wears something really like colorful, a little bit more girly with the plaid, the stars, the off shoulder, the nude heels. I don't recognize her. I think she just looks a lot more intriguing and alluring when she wears more Scorpio influenced clothing. Okay, next up we have Anne Hathaway. I love Anne Hathaway. I feel like she's one of the most misunderstood or misrepresented women in Hollywood. She just has a certain like vibe to her that kind of goes against what her allure actually is. So by that I mean she looks great when she looks intense, more mysterious, more quiet, the darker kind of magnetism like here, but usually when she presents herself in interviews, all you think is like type A, super perky, people-pleasing perfectionist. So I always think that's such a funny little dichotomy that she has. But anyways, I think she looks really beautiful. Again, the dark wear that's sexy but still conservative. And the smolder in her eyes really comes out with that. Again, the dark colors, the more suggestive clothing without being so explicit. Scorpios like to have all the power, so they don't want to be vulnerable, and that shows in the Venus and Scorpio placements in terms of choosing clothes that give the wearer the power to reveal what they want. So again, here's just another close-up of her, and I hope you can see her unique beauty here. I really feel like she has this very magnetic allure to her, and she can play some really dark roles and pull it off really well. And here with some blonde hair, it's interesting, but I always thought that this outfit was cool. It's kind of like the Addams family outfit, but a little bit more sheer. And here we have the total opposite, an animal print pullover and some interesting cutoff jeans, and here is just super bright, just such a different kind of look. And I just don't get that same visceral feeling from looking at these outfits on her. I don't see her allure and her power. Next up, we have Milla Jovovich, or Milla. I always forget. I get her and Mila Kunis confused sometimes with their first names. But anyways, Milla Jovovich is popular for her zombie killing red skimpy outfit with the black boots and other action roles, and she can pull it off extremely well. As you can see in these pictures, she pulls off that kind of badass, dark superhero role really, really well. And here we can see her smolder. She's like queen of smolder. She has it down pat more than anyone, in my opinion. She looks great in these dark looks that just help amplify that inner magnetism that she has. Again, not the most revealing, not the most bright, not the most ostentatious, but it pulls you in. It's like a visual black hole. Whereas here, this like more conventionally pretty way of dressing, the light pinks, the little details, the belting, the little braids, the pretty earrings, the sparkles, it washes her out, and it's just so foreign to her natural allure. Next up, we have Rachel McAdams. I don't know if you watched my other video, but it's confusing, her type. But this is not a typing video. This is an astrology styling video. And I think it's just easier to see her beauty in terms of her Venus sign, more so than just looking at her body type. She is very lovely, and she has such a bubbly personality, but in photos at least, she has an incredible smolder. There's just such a crazy intensity and magnetism to her eyes, and she looks great in these darker looks. Like here with the straps. She just looks so intriguing and powerful. Whereas here, she still looks pretty. She's a pretty woman. I think this is just a little plain. She doesn't look as amazing. There's no va-va-boom to these looks. Here's just too much pink and satin. She looks a little washed out here. Here's just too much detail. Here is just a little too rigid on her. There's nothing sexy about it. Next up, we have Jennifer Bartoli. I had no idea who she was until today when I made this video, but I was so intrigued by her because she looks to me like a mix of Rose Byrne and Monica Bellucci with maybe some Olivia Palermo or Cher Lloyd in there somehow. But she also has that Venus in Scorpio smolder. Looks great with it. The slightly tousled dark hair, the simple dark clothing. She's just very powerful eyes. And here again, just some contrast, dark looks, as opposed to something lighter, more sparkly, more pink. Yes, she still looks pretty, but I don't think she has the same impact visually as when she wears these darker, more powerful, bold looks. Next up, we have Katie Holmes, and everyone thinks Katie Holmes, Dawson's Creek, America's Sweetheart. At least people in my circle do, because we watched a little bit of Dawson's Creek. But anyways, I think she looks best when she's not playing to her girl next door kind of typecasting, and I think her beauty comes out when she wears more powerful dark clothing. And again, she has that same smolder in her eyes. It's very strong. So here you can really see the smolder going on, that little smirk, and the dark clothes, conservative but still very sexy and powerful and bold, as opposed to these brighter looks, more flamboyant, a little too classic here. She looks a little, little costumey here. And then here, it's kind of like the Kate Middleton effect, where you just put her in kind of very proper princess clothing, and it looks pretty because they're pretty and they're very elegant looking women, but it's kind of like trying to bridle a wild horse. Next up, we have Jodie Foster. Needless to say, look at her eyes, that smolder, the same kind of appeal. Leather is phenomenal on her. This little X, this cross, kind of strappy. Again, conservative, but kind of dominatrix. Here, beautiful, powerful, dark. Here, a little washed out. Here, you're like, who is that? Can really see the difference, the visual impact. Next up, we have Dakota Johnson. Dakota Johnson has amazing sense of style. She looks good in almost anything. She picks the best outfits for her. It's really hard to find her in an unflattering outfit. She just has that stylish quality to her. But here you can see that smolder and that smirk in her eyes. And maybe that's why she got cast in 50 Shades. The casting director saw that Venus and Scorpio kind of spark in her, which you can really see here in these two very leather-bound but still quite conservative outfits. So here are just some contrast examples. Obviously, dark and sexy here. She looks powerful, very, very solid, lovely looks. And here, this is a little washed out here, a little too much going on. And I think this red is just a little bit too much here, especially with a slightly messy hair. Amazing. It frames her face perfectly. And lastly, we have my absolute favorite, Winona Ryder. I was named after her, so I was born with a slight obsession with her. I just love her. I find her so beautiful and intriguing. And obviously, the smolder in her eyes is just absolutely lovely. It's effortless. She doesn't try. It's just there. And who else can pull off this look? She's like a little dark fairy. Again, the smolder, the Scorpio smolder is so strong in her, regardless of the age. It's just always been there. And here are just some really cool looks from her. I love her in this outfit. I wish I had this outfit. I just love it so much. And here, this darker one. Here, where she's just like totally not into super conventional outfits, but she still looks really appealing. And here again, you have her in a strappy, dark, simple, more conservative, but still very powerful, appealing look, as opposed to this when you put her in more conventionally pretty clothes, sparkles, tassels, glitter, very light colors. She looks really washed out, almost unrecognizable. She kind of loses a lot of her dark charm. So going back to the cover page, I hope you can further appreciate the Scorpio smolder, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!